Live from the BDN Studios, it's Bang and Dang.
That's awesome.
If you don't like that, then
You ain't black.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to Outlaws and Gunslingers with your host, Bang and Dang. Bang here, just to give you guys kind of like a quick introduction to part 3 and the final part of the O.J. Simpson murder trial saga, whatever you want to call it. But we recorded this initially the same night that we recorded part 2, and we're going to plan on just doing just 2 parts, but part 2 turned into over 2 hours of recording, so decided to split it up into 3. And if you guys don't know, we went from the first episode, we went back and looked at the murders and also the infamous Bronco chase on the highway. And then the second episode was all about the trial. Mainly, a good portion of it was the prosecutions, and then we got into a little bit at the end about the defense. And first they were focusing on contaminated evidence, and then it turned into they switched their defense up and turned into cops tried to plant the evidence and were out to get OJ, and that's where we ended off part 2, and where we will start this third part with the accusations and the rest of the defense, the trial, as well as the verdict and the reactions across the country afterwards and all the aftermath stuff. You guys know how we do it, so that's what's going to be coming up right now. The only physical evidence offered by the defense that the police tried to frame Simpson was the allegation that 2 of the 108 DNA evidence samples tested in the case contained the preservative. Not going to try to say the word, but it's ethylenedimentetracetic acid, or EDTA.
all right, we'll do that.
Ironically, it was the prosecution who asked to have the samples tested for the preservative, not the defense.
Oh,
The defense alleged that the drop of blood on the back gate of the Bundy crime scene, which matched Simpson, and the blood found on the pair of socks in Simpson's bedroom, which matched Brown, were planted by the police.
okay.
Yeah, the sock thing, I don't know, man. I'm sketchy on the socks.
All right, I'm getting a little.
I'm sketchy on the socks. I have been since they were introduced.
The glove, the sock, the gloves, the sock, and the pants and the shoes. No, the shoes are gone.
Well, the pants, shoes, and shirt are gone.
Right.
That's what they claimed he wrapped up in the knapsack.
But he left. But he left the socks,
But that's what I'm saying. I'm sketchy on the socks and the glove.
and he knew he dropped the other glove
Right.
at the Simpsons.
So I'm saying that's
And he knew he dropped the other glove in his yard.
it. From the beginning, this all hinged on the glove, dude.
In order to support the claim, the defense pointed to the presence of EDTA, a preservative found in the purple top collection tubes used for the police reference vials in the samples. July 24th, 1995, Dr. Frederick Reiters, a forensic toxicologist who had analyzed results provided by FBI Special Agent Roger Martz, testified that the level of EDTA in evidence samples was higher than which is normally found in blood.
Oh.
This appeared to support the claim that they may have come from the reference vials.
Oh, okay. Well, as always, during cross-examination, Clark asked Dr. Reiters to read out loud the portion of the EPA article that stated what normal levels of EDTA in blood are, which he referenced during his testimony. This demonstrated that he misread it and that the levels found in the evidence samples were consistent with those found in blood that was not preserved in a police reference vial.
Really?
Dr. Reiters then claimed it was a typo, but the prosecution produced a direct copy from the EPA confirming the normal amounts of EDTA found in unpreserved blood. He was trying to cover his ass, but they threw out original copy from the from the EPA saying, "Nah, I don't think so."
Yeah.
Well, back on the prosecution side.
Right. I mean, it's still close, though.
Yeah, I mean, shit's going on, dude. They're
rough. Is the FBI involved in this?
no, not that I know of. they're like checkmating each other,
Right.
or not checkmating each other, but they're checking each other, and
right.
they're getting out of it, dude.
Right.
Both of them are.
It's more sloppiness on the prosecution side, though. It's more prosecution. I mean, it's more sloppiness on the prosecution side, though.
Well,
Especially with the handling of the.
Yeah, I mean, we can go back to that 100%. That should have all that That should be the number one thing the jurors looked at. Well, we've already got an admission from these two guys or two people that they didn't change gloves.
How can we know how much of the
Right.
evidence throughout the other processes
Some
were not?
shitty shit's going on.
Right, we don't know. Even though
It's all starting to make sense why that happened.
the prosecution also had Dr. Riders admit that the EDTA is also found in food, and specifically the ingredients used in McDonald's Big Mac and French fries that Simpson had eaten earlier that night with Cato Kalin. I thought it was Burger King.
Well, somebody said they thought it was. And,
FBI special agent, because the crystal meth dealer,
right.
he hung out of Burger King, not McDonald's.
Well, you notice that hasn't been brought up in the trial at all, so that was bullshit.
Oh, FBI Special Agent Roger March was called by the defense on the 25th of July, 1995, to testify that EDTA was present in the evidence samples, yet instead said he did not identify EDTA in the blood sample. Wow.
Oh,
contradicting.
Look at you just asked if FBI was involved.
Wow. Contradicting the testimony given by Dr. Riders the day before. Initially, he conceded the blood samples responded like EDTA responded and was consistent with the presence of EDTA, but clarified his response after hearing during the lunch break that everyone is saying that I found EDTA. But I tell you right now, I am not saying that, he said.
So he changed his testimony based on chatter during lunch break. They were on lunch break, and everybody's like, oh, he found EDTA. And now he's like, whoa.
Back on a minute.
Right. No, what happened is somebody approached him and was like, you better say you didn't find EDTA.
Right.
Oh, dude, come on, man. On lunch break? You're not even supposed to be talking about the case when you're on lunch break.
No, ever. Not just lunch break.
Ever, right. Jeez. When the defense accused their own witness of changing his demeanor to favor the prosecution, he replied, quote, unquote, I cannot be entirely truthful by only giving yes and no answers.
How? Can you not?
You say yes and no. That's
the only way to be entirely truthful is to say yes or no.
Yes, but no.
No, but
maybe.
Right.
He's like, give me a maybe or something.
You gotta get a maybe in there, and oh, jeez.
March stated that it was impossible to ascertain with certainty the presence of EDTA, while the presumptive test for EDTA was positive, the identification test for EDTA was inconclusive.
What?
Oh, Martz also tested his own unpreserved blood and got the same results for EDTA levels as the evidence samples, which he said conclusively disproved the claim the evidence blood came from the reference vials.
Right.
Well, he contended that the defense had jumped to conclusions from the presumptive test results, while his test had in fact shown that, quote unquote, those blood stains did not come from preserved blood. Wow, that didn't go well for the defense, did it?
No.
Jeez.
No. I mean, but it kind of did with that other guy. Backtracking and stuff. I don't know. The defense alleged that Simpson's blood on the back gate at the Bundy crime scene was planted by the police. The blood on the back gate was collected on 3rd of July, 1995, rather than on June 13th, the day after the Moida. That's what they're saying.
Whoa.
Or that's what happened, right?
A whole month almost?
Wow. The volume of DNA on that blood was significantly higher than the other blood evidence collected on the 13th of June.
How's that possible?
The volume of the DNA was so high that the defense conceded that it could not be explained by contamination in the lab, yet noted that it was unusual for that blood to have more DNA on it than the other samples collected at the crime scene, especially since it had been left exposed to elements for several weeks. And after the crime scene has supposedly been washed.
Yeah, so they cleaned the crime scene already after this point, but still got to come back 3 weeks later and collect evidence on the gate.
Okay, here. That's a big jump towards the defense.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Oh, wow. What is happening here?
March 20th, 1995, Van Adder testified that he instructed Fung to collect the blood on the gate on June 13th, and Fung admitted that he had not done so. So the Fung guy that admitted to not changing his gloves between
Did you get the gate?
Evidence collection.
Did you get the gate? Yeah. He didn't. He didn't get the gate.
The defense suggested the reason why Fung did not collect the blood is because it was not there that day. Scheck showed a blown-up photograph taken of the back gate on June 13th and admitted that he could not see it in the photograph. Okay. The prosecution responded by showing that a different photograph showed that the blood was present on the back gate on June 13th and before the blood had been taken from Simpson's arm.
So now we got two different photographs. Which one's... I get the hell out of here. I don't know, man. This is all just fishy stuff here. I want to know the whole backstory here.
Well, Sheck is on the defense team, and he showed him a blown-up photograph.
There's no blood.
And Fung said, I could not see it in the photograph. But then they come back, or the prosecution says, well, wait a minute. We have a different photograph showing it was there on June 13th. But if it was there on June 13th, why didn't Fung go collect it?
All right.
This Fung guy, I don't know. This guy, I hope he was fired right after this trial. Him and the chick.
All of them.
Because they both suck at their evidence collection.
Officer Robert Risk was the first officer to the crime scene, and he was the one who pointed out the blood on the back gate to Furman, who documented it in his notes that night.
So it's documented in police notes that night.
Multiple other officers also testified under oath that the blood was present on the back gate the night of the murders. The prosecution also pointed out that the media cameras present proved that Vanatter never returned to the Bundy crime scene, which is Brown's home, that evening, where Simpson's blood was allegedly planted. Well, it wouldn't have been that evening because they didn't plant it until July. It was planted in July.
But there's still cameras, so he never returned.
Right.
So the defense is trying to say they planted it there, but we got multiple officers stating, yeah, we seen it on the gate the night of the murders, and we have photo evidence of it.
But do they?
I'll take an L for the defense here.
It's getting a little funky.
Barry Sheck alleged the police had twice planted the victim's blood inside Simpson's Bronco. An initial collection was made on June 13th. The defense accused Vanatter of planting the victim's blood in the Bronco when he returned to Simpson's home later that evening. The prosecution responded that the Bronco had already been impounded by the time Vanatter returned and was not even at Rockingham at that time.
He could have done it. He could have planted it in impound.
But they looked at the Bronco when they were there.
Sure.
Before they went to, I don't know this whole thing.
Right. We don't know.
Jeez.
The defense alleged that the police had planted Brown's blood on the socks found in Simpson's bedroom also. The socks were collected on the 13th of June and had blood from both Simpson and Brown. But her blood on the socks was not identified until August 4th.
Don't know how, but okay.
Right. The socks were found by Furman, but the defense suggested Vanatter planted the blood. He had received both blood reference vials from the victims earlier that day from the coroner and booked them immediately into evidence.
Well, they allege Vanatter then drove back to Rockingham later that evening to hand-deliver the reference vial for Simpson to Fung, which the defense alleged gave him opportunity to plant the blood. Fung testified he could not see blood on the socks he collected from Simpson's bedroom.
Wow.
But the prosecution later demonstrated that those blood stains are only visible underneath a microscope.
Oh, get out of here. Little splatters. And he's wearing pants.
Okay, wait.
No blood splattering
wait,
on
though.
socks
Wait,
from
though.
pants, though.
I was initially skeptical of the socks.
There's no blood scattering on socks when you're wearing pants.
Come on, he's an old man.
They're probably
High up. And
right.
either way, I was skeptical on the socks because why would he...
In the 30s.
No. By the time this took place...
Oh, he's probably in his 50s, yeah.
40s, at least.
Yeah.
40, approaching. But still, that isn't... I'm still skeptical on the socks because if he took all the other clothing items, he would have taken the socks too.
Obviously.
I don't care.
Right. Vanatter denied planting Brown's blood on the socks.
Of course he did.
The video from Willie Ford indicated that the socks had already been collected and stored in an evidence van before Vanatter arrived. And footage from the media cameras present appeared to prove that he never went inside the evidence van when he arrived at Rockingham. Yeah,
Because they got all of the hundreds of reporters that were there, right? The hell out of there. The last exhibit allegedly planted was the bloody glove found at Simpson's property by Furman. Unlike the sock in the back gate, the defense provided no physical or eyewitness evidence to support their claim that the prosecution could then refute. Jeffrey Toobin.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, just this. Jeffrey jacked me off on Canberra. Toobin published an article in the New Yorker months before the trial began, which cited a source in Simpson's defense team that they intended to accuse Furman of planting the glove with the motive being racism.
Oh,
Robert Shapiro later admitted he was Toobin's source.
Defense attorney F. Lee Bailey suggested that Furman found the glove at the crime scene, picked it up with a stick, and placed it in a plastic bag, and then concealed it in a sock when he drove to Simpson's home with detectives Lane, Vanatter, and Phillips. Bailey suggested that then he planted the glove in order to frame Simpson, with the motive either being racism or desire to become the hero in a high-profile case. Scheck also suggested that Furman broke into Simpson's Bronco and used the glove like a paintbrush to paint blood onto the inside of the Bronco. Oh, wow.
Onto and inside the Bronco.
Onto and inside the Bronco.
But that's a little sketchy. He put it in his sock. Prosecution denied that Furman planted the glove. Of course they would. They're the prosecution. They noted that several officers had already combed over the crime scene for almost 2 hours before Furman arrived, and none had noticed the second glove at the scene.
None did. Nobody noticed the glove at the scene.
Second glove. They found the first glove at the scene of the crime, but not the second glove.
Right.
The second glove was found at OJ's. Lang testified that 14 other officers were there when Furman arrived, and all said there was only one glove at the crime scene. Lieutenant Frank Spangler also testified that he was with Furman for the duration of this time and stated he would have seen Furman purloin the glove if he had in fact done so. I mean, can we trust? But
OJ,
can we trust? We already know officers stick up for each other,
right?
So it's not like one guy's gonna be like, yeah, I seen him do it.
Clark added that Furman did not know whether Simpson had an alibi, if there were any witnesses to the murders, whose blood was on the glove, that the Bronco belonged to Simpson, or whether Caitlin had already searched the area where the glove was found.
I find the claim that they don't know the Bronco belonged to Simpson a falsify. That's a lie.
Right.
You're telling me they don't know Simpson drove around in a white freaking Bronco?
Right.
Get the hell out of here, dude.
Right.
Simpson was a freaking celebrity then.
Wow.
On the top of his game then, on commercials everywhere.
He was
everywhere.
movies.
Right.
I mean, during
Everybody
cross-examination.
knew he had a Bronco.
Right. During cross-examination by Bailey, Furman denied that he had used the word to describe African Americans in the 10 years prior to his testimony.
Hey, man, that's what's in the testimony. A few months later, the defense discovered the audio tapes that Furman repeatedly using the word.
41 times in total.
41 times in total, 8 years before the murders. The Furman tapes became the cornerstone of the defense's case that Furman's testimony lacked credibility. Clark called the tapes the biggest red herring there ever was.
I mean, if this guy is like a known racist and he's like, maybe he hated the Buffalo Bills. He hated O.J. Simpson.
Or he just hated black people.
No, maybe he hated O.J. Simpson all his life.
Or he just hated black people.
Or maybe O.J. Simpson beat his favorite team.
Yeah,
he hated black people,
No,
too.
but I'm saying, you realize we're still only 2 or 3 years now removed from the riots.
Right. But I'm saying, though,
right?
O.J. Simpson also probably beat his favorite NFL team, and he's black, and he has a chance to put him down. Maybe he lost the money on the bet.
Well, the Bills never won the Super Bowl,
No.
so that doesn't matter.
They probably beat his team, though.
And he was with San Francisco for like a couple years, and they didn't win the Super Bowl with them either. So,
wait, O.J. Simpson with the Niners?
Yeah, for like 2 years before he retired. And LA never made it to no damn Super Bowl, so I don't think that would be the case.
Right. Maybe he was a Chicago man. Maybe he was a Bears fan. Maybe it was
Bears won the Super Bowl
in '85, right? So he wouldn't be mad at all. Maybe he's a Lions fan.
Still has nothing to do with anything.
Has everything to do with
But anyways,
anything.
Marcia Clark called the tapes the biggest red herring there ever was.
All Lions fans should be suspects of murder.
any crime in the country, like,
Any crime in the country.
That's the first criteria they check. Were they Lions fans? Nope. All right.
We need all Lions fans. We know.
Every time a murder happens, like, all right.
Give me a list of all the Lions fans.
We expect a call every time. Every time we hear of a murder. All right.
Were you in Chicago? Nope. Okay. Anybody you know? Nope.
All Lions fan knows to always document their movements so we can prove our whereabouts.
Right. We did not, especially with. Well, after McKinney was forced to hand over the tapes to the defense, Furman says he asked the prosecution for a redirect to explain the context of those tapes, but the prosecution and his fellow police officers abandoned him after Ito played the audio tapes in open court for the public to hear.
Oh, damn. So, yep, they turned on their own. They were like, well, can't associate with this guy no more.
The public reaction to the tapes was explosive, and compared to the video of Rodney King beaten from a year prior, oh, wow. Instant. That's bad. Boom. Any doubt anybody had against OJ from before this tapes is gone.
Yep.
Gone.
Yep. Dude.
Gone.
Dude.
That's why there was no riots
when
OJ
when the defense got a hold of these tapes, they're probably, they probably.
OJ was like, all right.
Wow. OJ was probably telling them, let's not take this a racist way.
Right.
And then
the tapes
came out, they're like, we're going the racist way.
He's like, you got it.
Wow.
You got it, dude. Wow. After the trial, Furman said that he was not a racist. That's racist.
That's what a racist would say.
And he apologized for his previous language, as a racist would do. That's caught. This was probably racist. He's probably is racist. This Furman guy. He was saying that he was play acting for a screenplay when he made it. I'm not a racist, and I feel bad for using those words, and I would never use those words. But when I did use those words, I was play acting for a screenplay when those tapes were made.
Number one,
and he said he was asked.
Number one, wait. What we're missing here is this lends to the credence that the defense is saying he's trying to be the hero of the case. This dude's acting for a screenplay. This dude wants to be an actor. So what does that say? He's looking for a little bit of fame here.
We already seen this before earlier.
The other guy, but he was already quickly discredited. But now it's just coming out. This dude was supposedly...
and then he just said he was asked to be as dramatic as possible.
That's what he says, right?
Wow.
Well, many of his minority former co-workers expressed support for him, though.
Of course.
On September 6, 1995, Furman was called back to the witness stand by the defense after the prosecution refused to redirect him to answer more questions. The jury was absent, but the exchange was televised. Why was the jury absent?
All right, I don't like that.
Furman, facing a possible prosecution for perjury, was instructed... Oh, that's probably why the jury wasn't there.
Yeah.
He was instructed by his attorney to invoke the Fifth Amendment to avoid self-incrimination to 2 consecutive questions he was asked.
Oh, jeez. He's trying to say he's not a racist, but he can't.
But it's on tape of him being a racist.
Yeah,
right?
This Fifth Amendment. Choose the Fifth on that one, bud. Defense attorney Ullman asked Furman if it was his intention to plead the Fifth to all questions, and Furman's attorney instructed him to reply, yes, it was. Ullman then briefly spoke with other members of the defense, and he said, and said that he had just one more question. He goes, I got one more question for you, Mr. Furman. Did you plant or manufacture any evidence in this case? Following his attorney's instructions, Furman replied, I choose to assert my Fifth Amendment privilege.
They thought they were going to catch him. With instructed him to reply yes, like he was going to reply yes to that one. Oh, come on.
Of course he would.
Come on. The guys ain't that stupid, man.
Wow. He couldn't say no either because then he'd be lying.
Right.
Wow.
He said, I plead the Fifth.
But even then, now you're pleading the Fifth.
Plead the Fifth, no comment. That means you're guilty a little bit, right?
I'll say. Wow.
Cochran responded to Furman's plead in the Fifth by accusing the other officers of being involved in a quote-unquote cover-up to protect Furman and asked Judge Ito to suppress all the evidence that Furman found. Ito denied the request, stating that pleading the Fifth does not imply guilt, which it doesn't, and there was no evidence of fraud. Cochran then asked the jury to be allowed to hear Furman taking the Fifth, and again, Ito denied his request. Ito also criticized the defense theory of how Furman allegedly planted the gloves, stating it would strain logic to believe that.
I agree with the judge's decision on all this because you
can't do that.
That's just. I mean,
do that.
Yeah,
he was called back.
Right, you can't
pertaining to his perjury, likely,
and
or
when
maybe perjury.
And when you plead, come on, it'd be different if you pleaded guilty or whatever. Then a jury has to
or
hear
no
that.
Contest or something, right?
Jury has to hear that. Yeah, no. Everybody says no contest and plead the Fifth. No, they're not the same. No contest.
Okay.
No contest is your.
Well, here's where it gets interesting.
Right. June 15th, 1995. Christopher Darden surprised Marshall Clark by asking Simpson to try on the gloves found at the crime scene and his home.
Uh-oh.
Surprised Marshall Clark. Marshall Clark was like, "What are you doing?"
They're never gonna make him try on the gloves.
Wow. The prosecution had early decided against asking Simpson to try them on because they had been soaked in blood from Simpson, Brown, and Goldman, and frozen and unfrozen several times. I mean, it's true. It was probably leather. They're probably leather gloves, right? Instead, they presented a witness who testified that Brown had purchased a pair of those gloves in the same size in 1990 at Bloomingdale's for Simpson. How do they know that she's purchasing it for Simpson? They were married that time, right.
So
along with a receipt and a photo during the trial of Simpson earlier wearing the same type of gloves. Oh, same type, though.
So I'm sure he was out in public or something that he was waving with them on or something.
Same type of gloves.
Well, when he tried them on...
They're leather, though, and they got frozen, unfrozen, dude. Yeah.
That's true. They could have shrunk.
That's what leather does.
Well, when he tried them on, the leather gloves appeared too tight for Simpson to put on easily, especially over the latex gloves he wore underneath.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it's not that...
Right, latex.
Right.
Again.
Clark claimed that Simpson was acting when he appeared to be struggling to put on the gloves, yet Cochran replied, "I don't think he could act the size of his hands."
Right.
Darden then told Ito of his concerns that Simpson has arthritis, and we looked at the medication he takes and some of his anti-inflammatory, and we are told that he has not taken the stuff for a day, and it caused swelling in the joints and inflammation in his hands.
So they're saying that he didn't take his arthritis pill, so his hands are bigger than
What they usually would have been. Right.
I don't know about that, guys.
Physical evidence.
Cochran informed Ito the next day that Sean Chapman contacted the L.A. County Jail doctor who confirmed Simpson was taking his arthritis medication every day.
Okay.
And that the jail's medical records verified this.
Yep.
Ullman came up with, and Cochran repeated, a quip he used in his closing arguments. If it doesn't fit, you must quit.
Well, I'll quit, but yeah.
Right. I like that.
I'll quit.
Yeah.
The prosecution stated they believed the gloves shrank from having been soaked in the blood of the victims.
There's no proof.
Richard Rubin, former vice president of the glove maker Aris Isotoner Inc., which makes the gloves in question, testified on September 12, 1995, that the gloves had indeed shrunk from their original size.
That doesn't matter.
Darden produced a new pair of the same type of gloves, which fit Simpson when he tried them on.
Were they okay? They have that tag in the gloves, right?
Say the size or something,
whatever,
right?
Okay.
After the trial, Cochran revealed that Bailey had goaded Darden into asking Simpson to try on the gloves, and that Shapiro had told Simpson in advance how to give the appearance that they did not fit.
I don't know about that.
Yeah,
I don't know about that.
either.
I don't know about that.
Maybe though.
Maybe.
They were frozen, unfrozen several times.
They probably didn't fit.
Yeah. Then,
Right.
did they fit when it was happening?
In closing arguments, Darden ridiculed the notion that police officers might have wanted to frame Simpson. He questioned why. If the LAPD was against Simpson, they went to his house 8 times on domestic violence calls against Brown between 1986 and 1988, but did not arrest him. They only arrested him on charges of abuse in January 1989, when photos of Brown's face were entered into the record. Darden noted the police did not arrest Simpson for 5 days after the 1994 murders.
Yeah, but that's how famous celebrities do it with their
They get a chance.
with their lawyers
They get a
and shit. They
chance.
make it right.
Get out of here.
During the prosecution's
Roger Stone.
Right. Well, during the prosecution's closing argument, Cochran and Scheck very notably objected 71 times in order to lessen its effect on the jury. And though Ito overruled 69 of them, he did not once admonish Cochran or Scheck or threaten them with contempt of court for their behavior. In Cochran's summation to the jury, he was unable to refute any of the prosecution's claims, so he instead dedicated his entire argument to attacking the LAPD, particularly Furman, Lang, and Vanatter.
I still think at this time, Judge Ito was thinking, this is over. You guys are done. I'm not entertaining any of your...
you guys can try all your little...
Right.
You guys can try all your little outrageous shenanigans and all this shit.
Not
Whatever.
listen to it. It's over.
Makes for good TV.
Right. The jury already knows. We know. America knows. Your guy's going to prison for life, but I'm not entertaining anything you got.
Right.
Well, Cochran emphasized that Furman was proved to have repeatedly referred to black people as and also have boasted of beating young black men in his role as a police officer. Cochran compared Furman to Adolf Hitler and referred to him as a genocidal racist, a perjurer, America's worst nightmare, and a personification of evil.
Personification of
Right.
evil.
Personification.
And it's also Adolf Hitler, not Adolf Hitler. Little far with that one, Cochran.
Right, that's like
And don't know about that.
right, that's crazy. And claimed without proof that Furman had planted the glove in an attempt to frame Simpson for the murders based purely on his dislike of interracial couples. I mean,
I can see that.
I can see that.
I don't know about the planting of evidence and anything as far as being
Back in the day,
racist against
right.
interracial couples.
Back in the day,
100% can see
it was
that.
only 1995, and this guy is probably in his 50s, so yeah, interracial couples, yeah, still a big thing back then.
Well, Cochran, he also presented a piece of paper to the jury with the title Vanatter's Big Lies. and claimed, without any evidence or proof, that Venator had returned to the crime scene with Simpson's blood to plant it there, despite Venator having previously testified he had given it to Dennis Fung in order to avoid the exhibits from getting mixed up. Cochran referred to Furman and Venator as the two devils of deception, and very notably implored the jurors to stop this cover-up and acquit Simpson and send the police a message, which was interpreted by many as naked appeal for jury nullification.
Wow.
That's what did it, dude. Cochran's closing arguments, dude. He spoke like a freaking pastor at a church.
He did.
He did a sermon in front of these jurors that were like,
he was like
knock some shit into him.
He's basically saying Furman and these guys ain't Furman and this what was the other guy? Furman. Venator. This isn't, I'm not talking about Furman and Venator. I'm talking about all of that as a whole. That's what he's saying. It's been corrupt for too long.
No, he's literally saying Furman and Venator.
But he's using them as his thing. This has been this way for too long. Basically putting all the evidence against his client, everything, just to be like, this has been happening for a long time. Not even regarding the case. This type of action has been happening for a long time. These guys are some known racists, known corrupt mofos, and it's got to stop now. That's the way I see it. Following his summation, Cochran received numerous death threats. He hired bodyguards from Louis Farrakhan.
Oh, shit.
In response, Fred Goldman, who was himself Jewish, referred to Cochran himself as the worst kind of racist ever. And he is a sick man for comparing Furman to Hitler while associating himself with Farrakhan. I mean, he's got a point. Who is widely considered a black supremacist and anti-Semite, which he's not considered, he is. While Robert Shapiro, also Jewish, expressed that he was particularly offended by Cochran comparing Furman's claims to the Holocaust, claiming that no comparison would ever be possible.
Yeah, that's what I said. A little too far with the Hitler shit there, bud.
Yeah, he went a little too far. You're right. A little too far.
In an interview regarding Vincent Bugliosi's analysis on the case, Venator claimed that he was so infuriated at Cochran's claims about him that he felt a desire to strangle him in the courtroom. Don't say that. Fears grew that race riots, similar to the riots in 92, would erupt across Los Angeles and the rest of the country if Simpson were convicted of the murders. As a result, all LAPD officers were put on 12-hour shifts.
That's not the case. The police arranged for more than 100 police officers on horseback to surround the L.A. County Courthouse.
Horseback, huh? Got the cavalry.
Right, on the day of the verdict, in case of rioting by the crowd. President Bill Clinton was briefed on security measures if rioting were to occur nationwide. The only testimony that the jury reviewed was of the limo driver, Park.
Wait, so they didn't review any other testimony besides Park's?
The only testimony that the jury reviewed was of the limo driver, Park. Right, that guy, Park. His last name was Park, right?
Right.
10:07 a.m. on Tuesday, October 3rd, 1995. O.J. Simpson. Found. Not guilty. Both counts of moida. Wow.
The jury arrived at the verdict by 3 p.m. on October 2nd after 4 hours of deliberation. That's it, too. 4 hours.
They already knew.
But it postponed the announcement. Obviously, they had to get shit together. After the verdict, dude, everybody after they came to the verdict was probably all the judges and all the prosecutors, and everybody was like,
right. Even the judge.
Are you serious?
The judge, even O.J. Simpson was, even Jimmy Cochran. What's his name? Is it Jimmy Cochran? What's his name? Joe Cochran?
Johnny
Cochran. Even he was like, what? For sure.
After the verdict.
Well, this is it right here.
Right. After the verdict was read, juror number 9, 44-year-old Lionel Cryer, gave Simpson a Black Power raised fist salute.
Really?
The New York Times reported that Cryer was a former member of the Revolutionary Nationalist Black Panther Party that prosecutors had inexplicably left on the panel.
Wow. Wait a minute here. In the courtroom.
After it was done, gave him the Black Power salute, dude.
Wow. An estimated 100 million people worldwide watched or listened to the verdict's announcement. Long-distance telephone call volume declined by 58%. And trading volume on the New York Stock Exchange decreased by 41%.
Because everybody's glued to the damn TV, dude.
Water usage decreased as people avoided using bathrooms. So much work stopped that the verdict cost an estimated $480 million loss in productivity.
Wow.
Are you freaking serious? The United States Supreme Court received a message on the verdict during oral arguments, with the justices quietly passing a note to each other while listening to the attorney's presentation. Congressmen canceled press conferences, with one telling reporters, "Not only would you not be here, but I wouldn't be here either."
Right. We're going to watch the trial, guys.
Wow.
African-American LAPD police chief Willie Williams indicated that he had no plans to reopen the investigation, saying of the acquittals, "It doesn't mean there's another murderer." The LAPD also declined to re-examine the evidence with modern methods because Simpson cannot be tried.
He said it doesn't mean there's another murderer.
Right.
Wow.
The LAPD also declined to re-examine the evidence with modern methods because Simpson cannot be tried for the same crime again under the Fifth Amendment.
Right.
So what's done is done. He's officially acquitted of murder. Can never be tried again with it. Jeez.
Wow. The strong public reaction to Brown's letters and statements describing her abuse spurred passage of the Violence Against Women Act in 1994. Which
So this is even before the trial wrapped up.
Which Clark and Douglas referred to as the OJ rule. After the trial, researchers reported increased reporting, arrests, and harsher sentences for those convicted of domestic violence.
Hey,
I mean,
there's one good thing that came out of it, huh?
Right. Wow.
After the verdict, polling showed that 75% of white Americans thought Simpson was guilty, while 70% of African Americans thought he was innocent. An NBC poll taken 10 years later in 2004 reported similar results, with 87% of whites believing he was guilty, compared to only 27% of African Americans believing so.
Only 27? Yeah. Oh, it went up.
So
went up to more.
No,
I believe
it went up to 73% of thinking he was innocent.
Right. Went to more thinking he was innocent.
Yeah. In 2016, 20 years after the verdict, polling showed the gap had narrowed, with the majority of both now believing he was guilty.
Right.
83% of white Americans and 57% of black Americans. After all this shit. Well, he was, you believe, in 2016, though, he had already been arrested on the,
he did the book.
The shit that he held those guys hostages for stealing his memorabilia and shit. So.
Wow.
Jeez, dude.
Wow. Scholarly consensus is that the trial damaged race relations in America. It didn't. And point to polling which shows that belief in Simpson's guilt depended on the race of the individual and not the evidence against him.
Which probably true.
I don't know at that point.
Yeah, white people were like he's guilty, black people were like he's not. That's
and it was
clear.
10 blacks and 3 Asians and 2 whites?
No, it was 10 black,
9 blacks, 2 Asians. 2 Latinos.
2 whites, 1 Latino.
All right. Analysis.
That was an initial one. All the others, there was so many people that got. Remember, there's only like 2 original jurors that remains. Who knows? We don't even know what the other ones that got replaced with were.
Analysis of the racial gap in polling shows that it did not cross the political spectrum. Conservatives,
pretty much Republicans thought he was guilty, and Democrats
Conservatives,
didn't.
regardless of race or gender, thought Simpson was guilty. Where the gap emerged was among liberals, with black liberals believed Simpson was innocent, while white liberals thought he was guilty.
So white people thought he was guilty, black people thought he was not, pretty much.
No matter what.
African-American Stanford University law professor Richard Thompson Ford wrote that this made the verdict a wedge issue that divided liberals along racial lines, as white liberals felt the verdict was a racially motivated jury nullification and resented the images of African Americans celebrating the verdict. Opponents of civil rights seized upon the situation and rebranded themselves as advocating quote-unquote race neutrality instead of separate but equal, which appealed to white liberals now due to the verdict and is credited with why voters in California passed Proposition 209 in 1996 that ended affirmative action in the state. Ended affirmative action in the state. Okay.
A historic drop in diversity in the United States.
California.
A historic drop in diversity in the University of California followed, which led to a similar lack of diversity seen in the state's white-collar job market, particularly in the high-tech area of Silicon Valley. Opponents then tried to pass Proposition 54 to effectively conceal the impact of Prop 209, but voters rejected that measure. The death of George Floyd revived empathy for racial injustice among white liberals, but the unsuccessful attempt to repeal Prop 209 in 2020 is credited to the trial's legacy of undermining race relations. Is it?
Polling shows that minorities were divided by the verdict as well. Latinos and African Americans both believed that fraud was taking place in LAPD, but disagreed on the cause.
Right.
Simpson said he felt vindicated by the Rampart scandal, which proved that fraud was happening in the Crash.
It was.
Which is an anti-gang unit.
Anybody knows they made a movie at Crash.
However,
this
fraud was not racially motivated. All the officers involved were minorities themselves in the Crash anti-gang unit.
They were.
And were actually found to be affiliated with one of the gangs they were supposed to be policing.
Yeah. But Crash.
That would still prove fraud was happening. Doesn't matter.
Still fraud happening.
It doesn't matter who the frick the races were. Fraud was happening.
Yeah,
if fraud was happening in this particular division of the LAPD unit, whatever, it's happening throughout the whole damn system.
Right.
The fuck out of here.
It was definitely. Several jurors together published Madame Foreman in 1995 to respond to allegations the verdict was racially motivated. They concluded that Simpson probably was guilty, but the prosecution failed to prove it by
beyond a reasonable doubt, which is the whole damn thing. We already know that's the only way. The jurors go into the damn juror room and they look at all the evidence, and that's all that they look at.
Reasonable doubt.
They don't.
Is there reasonable doubt here that he is not guilty? Well, yeah, these guys wore the same gloves. We got misreputation on here. We got proven racism here. We got this here. The glove didn't fit. We must have quit. That's what Johnny Cochran said. Johnny Cochran published Journey to Justice in 1996 about the trial and denied he played the race card and maintains the LAPD tried to frame O.J. Simpson.
Meanwhile, Robert Shapiro published The Search for Justice in 1996 about the case, and he concluded there was reasonable doubt, but criticized Bailey and Cochran for bringing race into the trial. In contrast to Cochran's book, Shapiro wrote, I never believed that Simpson was being victimized by a racist police organization because he was black or that he was seen as a black hero. Robert Shapiro knew he was guilty. He got paid big ass bucks to represent him. Just like any defense lawyer would.
For sure. I mean, but you got Furman being interracial couple against her.
And saying the N-word 78 times or whatever the frick it was.
Reasonable doubt. It goes all back to that. Marcia Clark published Without a Doubt.
Oh, okay.
1998 about the case.
So now all these players in the game here are making money off of all this shit. Of course.
Right. She wrote that the acquittal demonstrates the legal system is still compromised by race and celebrity.
I agree with the celebrity part for sure.
Because the prosecution's physical evidence should have easily convicted Simpson.
100%.
Christopher Darden published In Contempt. That's what he published.
Right.
In Contempt in 1998 about the trial. He attributes the acquittal to poor stewardship by a starstruck Judge Ito and a dysfunctional and uneducated jury. No, Judge Ito he knew this shit was guilty. I said this from the beginning.
Judge Ito, that's what he said. We said he was putting together the jurors because he knew that they were going to find him guilty.
I would say the jury had something to do with it. Dysfunctional and uneducated jury.
Well,
yes.
I wouldn't say dysfunctional or uneducated.
Right. I'd say a jury that was biased.
Well, maybe, yeah. Meanwhile, Vincent Bugliosi published Outrage, the 5 reasons why O.J. Simpson got away with murder in 97. Bugliosi believes Simpson was guilty and blames the verdict on an incompetent jury, prosecution, and judge.
No. I cannot say that. From everything that we heard so far, the judge...
I don't know if the jury was incompetent, but prosecution was definitely incompetent.
Yeah.
Judge might have been. He might have been siding with O.J. a little bit, dude.
About Ito,
right.
But from what I know, he's like, this is ridiculous what we're doing here.
He writes that other than when a killer is apprehended in the act, I have never seen a more obvious case of guilt. All of the evidence, not some or most of it, all of it, he says, points irresistibly to Simpson's guilt and his guilt alone, which if you're looking at evidence, it really does.
Right.
Henry Lee, in the meantime, published Blood Evidence, How DNA is Revolutionizing the Way We Solve Crimes. He released that in 2003 and wrote that both of the defense's forensic DNA experts, Lee and Edward Blake, had rejected Scheck's contamination claim.
Really?
Lots of stuff come out afterwards that everybody that might have been on the defensive side saying, wait a minute, maybe it wasn't.
Here's the racist Furman, alleged racist Furman published Murder in Brentwood.
Imagine every single one of these guys got book deals that were probably worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, dude.
Yeah, that's where I'm getting it at, and that's where I'm...
Regardless of the outcome, all these people involved knew they were getting money.
Even OJ.
Well, OJ had money already. He knew he was just getting more, right?
He even wrote a book.
Right.
Furman.
It might even come up later. I don't know, because who knows? But that the book that he wrote, all the profits and proceeds went to the Goldman family. So,
okay. Furman published Murder in Brentwood. He published that in 1998, defending himself against fraud claims. He wrote, "Was taken the Fifth Amendment was to avoid prosecution for perjury,"
which damn right should have, right?
Tom Lang and Philip Van Natter published Evidence Dismissed: The Inside Story of the Police Investigation of O.J. Simpson. They published that in 1997 and defended themselves against allegations of corruption and incompetence.
So basically, each person involved are writing a book defending themselves.
Yeah, but Van Natter can't defend himself. There's nothing to defend himself for.
Why?
Van Natter, and it wasn't him and that Fold guy, or Fook, what was the name?
Fung?
Fung
is the one that was the evidence collector, right?
An idiot.
Daniel M. Petrocelli published Triumph of Justice, the final judgment of the Simpson saga in 1998, and compares the criminal and civil trials. He attributes the acquittal to bad rulings by Judge Ito, unethical behavior by the defense, and unreliable testimony from Gerdes, Riders, Lee, and Baden.
It's true.
Darnell Hunt published O.J. Simpson Facts and Fictions, News Rituals in the Construction of Reality. Why do people always choose long titles?
Right.
And wrote that the racial gap in Poland is a manufactured product of selective reporting of facts by the media due to them treating the trial as a form of entertainment and not as a legal proceeding. Which is true
as well. Both of those are true.
Yes.
November 2006. Reagan Books announced a book ghostwritten by Pablo Fensves, Fenjves, Fensves, based on interviews with Simpson titled "If I Did It."
There's it at. There it is.
Which the publisher said was a hypothetical confession. The book's release was planned to coincide with a Fox special featuring Simpson on the 20th of November in 2006. News Corporation canceled the project due to public criticism. Later, the Goldman family was awarded the rights to the book and published it under the title "If I Did It: Confessions of the Killer."
Right, they should have capitalized the.
Right.
March 11th, 2018, Fox broadcast Simpson's previously unaired interview in a special titled O.J. Simpson, The Lost Confession.
Yeah.
The interview was interpreted as being a form of implied confession because Simpson used first-person language, things like "I must have," in explaining how he committed the murders. I must have did this. I maybe did that.
Well, I can see them saying that, right? Well, they're saying I must have.
Guess what? It doesn't matter. He ain't being tried again, so he can say I must have or I did have.
No, he can. Right. Let's say I did do that. Let's say I did. X.
Well, let's say I did. This is how I would have done it. And if I did, this is what I would have done.
Right. And be like, maybe I did accidentally drop that glove by Kato Kalin's door.
Right. On purpose.
On purpose.
Accidentally on purpose.
In an interview with Barbara Walters, Robert Shapiro, who is Jewish, we already went through this a million times, said he was offended by Cochran comparing Furman to Adolf Hitler. We already said that. And he said
he was a recent interview.
Right. He said that he would never work with Bailey or Cochran again.
Well, Cochran's dead.
He also admitted the defense played the race card from the bottom of the deck.
From the bottom of the deck. They had to go through the whole deck to get to the card.
Robert Kardashian admitted that prior to the jurors visiting Simpson's home, that the defense team had switched out his photos of white women for his photos of his children and switched out a picture of a nude Paula Barberi, Simpson's girlfriend at the time, who was white.
Oh, white chick.
For a Norman Rockwell painting of Cochran's office.
From Cochran's office.
Okay. Oh, wait. Why?
So they went. Because they wanted to predict him or portray him as like a family man. And said he had white women all over his freaking house. And that's what I said. That's what I said. When the cops went in there, all they found was pictures of white people and pictures of him with white people. And that's all they ever found.
Right.
Simpson gave two high-profile interviews regarding the case, one in 96 with Ross Becker and one in 2004 with Katie Couric.
Wow, he did one in 96, like right after the trial.
In February 98 issue of Esquire, Simpson was quoted as saying, "Let's say I committed this crime. Even if I did this, it would have to have been because I loved her very much, right?" That's not how you show love, OJ.
What? You're saying if you would have...
I had to murder her because I loved her.
And yet he had to murder her the way you did.
I used to love her, but I had to kill her.
When did that song come out?
Jeez. In April 98, Simpson did an interview with Ruby Wax and pretended to stab her using a banana in an apparent joke referencing the stab and death of his wife. This dude is just trolling everybody.
Yeah, he's like, I'm good. I am good. May 2008, Mike Gilbert released his book, How I Helped O.J. Get Away with Moida, which quotes Simpson's allegedly saying, if she hadn't opened that door with a knife in her hand, she'd still be alive.
Oh, so now where'd the knife go? Where'd the knife go?
In the documentary, O.J. Made in America, jury Carrie Best said she believed 90% of the jury actually decided to acquit Simpson as payback for Rodney King. Wow.
Oh, because all those guys got acquitted. Maybe
so.
Though I don't know. It was only
two people got brutally murdered though.
It was only but
different story.
You seen what happened in the Rodney King stuff? We already covered that one. You guys can go back in the '92 riots episode for that. Dude, this whole city's still on edge, dude.
Very true.
For real.
That's very true. That's very true.
Meanwhile, juror Lionel Cryer, who gave Simpson a Black Power salute after the verdict, said in retrospect he would render a guilty verdict. Juror Anise Aschenbach, who initially voted guilty before changing her vote, stated she regrets the decision and believes Simpson is guilty because he is not looking for the real killer like he promised he would.
Of course he's not. Either are the police. The police even said it.
Well, they know who the real murderer is. That's why they're not looking for him. But Simpson did say that after the trial. I promise to dedicate my life to looking for Nicole's murderer.
Oh, he already found it.
He looks in the mirror every morning. He's seen it. He knows. He knows who it is.
He's like, tag, you're it.
Found you.
Found you, bud. Let's go on with my life.
Jeez, dude.
1996, Fred Goldman and Sharon Rufo, the parents of Ron Goldman, and Lou Brown, father of Nicole Brown, filed a civil suit against Simpson for wrongful death.
Sure did.
They were represented by Daniel Petroselli and Simpson by Robert Baker. Why didn't I get Cochran?
I think Cochran was like, I ain't doing no more of this.
Like, plus, he's like, you're losing this one.
Cochran only did criminal stuff, though, I believe.
The judge presiding was Hiroshi Fujizaki. Wow. Did not allow the trial to be televised.
Never should have.
Did not sequester to the jury.
He did not sequester the jury, though.
Right. And prohibited the defense from alleging racism by the LAPD from condemning the crime lab. Oh, so all that. He was like, I don't want to hear about...
We're not televising it.
No.
The jury can be free to
right, they can't come in.
The jury can be free to look at news. They can look at anything while the trial's going on.
Right.
And you guys can't mention racism by the LAPD,
right.
And you can't condemn the crime lab for contaminating evidence.
And that we're not hearing any of that.
That's a fuck trial, though, dude.
Right, that is messed up. Wow.
That's just payback for him to lose the civil suit, my opinion there, dude.
Right. The physical evidence did not change, but additional evidence of domestic violence was presented, as well as 31 pre-1994 photos of Simpson wearing a Bruno Magli shoe, including one that was published 6 months before the Moida, proving it could not be a forgery. Results from a polygraph test that Simpson denied taking showed extreme deception when he denied committing the Moidas. So Simpson denied he took it. So that polygraph test, screw that polygraph test.
I thought he said he didn't want to take one anyways.
Right, so screw that. I don't want to hear anything about that. Furman did not testify, but Simpson did on his own behalf and lied several times.
Oh, who did he, though? According to who?
Did he, though?
Nevertheless, the jury found Simpson liable for the murders and awarded the victims' families $33.5 million in compensatory and punitive damages. Simpson filed for bankruptcy afterwards and relocated to Florida to protect his pension from seizure. His remaining assets were seized and auctioned off, with most being purchased by critics of the verdict of the criminal trial to help the plaintiffs recoup the cost of litigation. Simpson's Heisman Trophy was sold for $255,500 to an undisclosed buyer. That's not allowed.
It's not.
You can't sell your Heisman Trophy.
No.
No, that's the Oscar, I think.
Yeah,
You're instructed to give it back.
Right.
All the proceeds went to the Goldman family, who said they had received only 1% of the money that Simpson owes from the wrongful death suit. None of the money went to Nicole Brown's sister, or it was just both of them sued him, so why did it only go to the Goldman family?
That's all that is. Wow. According to O.J. Made in America director Ezra Edelman, no plausible alternative theory has emerged since the trial.
Oh, why would there be?
Right. Such theories has been rejected by the trial's participants, with Hunt opening with Hunt saying that these claims were attempts to tap into the public interest in the case and were never meant to be taken seriously. William Deere published O.J. is innocent and I can prove it.
Okay.
Which was adapted into the BBC documentary The O.J., The True Untold Story. That was in 2000.
Well, that documentary primarily rehashes the contamination and blood planting claims from the trial, and asserted that Simpson's elder son Jason is a possible suspect. That's what now that I'm thinking about it, I'm glad this came up. They've been saying there's been a rumor for about 25 years that his son was the one that actually did it.
Really?
Alternative theories of the murders have suggested that they related to the L.A. drug trade and the murders of Michelle Nigg and Brant Cantor. Well, remember her friend was the drug addict. They didn't even in this whole trial. They never brought up the friend being a druggie and all that stuff.
Kidman. Brown was a druggie.
Right.
Goldman was a druggie. Supposedly, OJ was on crystal meth with Kaylin.
Right.
Wow. 2012 documentary film My Brother the Serial Killer. Alleged convicted murderer Glenn Edward Rogers confessed to being involved in the murders and claimed he had been hired by Simpson to do it. I can see that. The families of Brown and Goldman dismissed its claims and accused Henry Schleif of investigation discovery of irresponsibility. So that's irresponsible of you, bud.
Right.
I'm going to charge you with irresponsibility. He replied that he believed Simpson was guilty and the documentary's intention was not to prove Rogers committed the crime. He's like, no, Rogers didn't do it.
Well, in 1995, Fox premiered the television movie The O.J. Simpson Story, which followed some of the more tawdry events of the relationship between Simpson and Brown, up to and including his arrest for Brown's murder. Simpson is portrayed by Bobby Hosea. 2000, 20th Century Fox produced American Tragedy, starring Ving Rhames as Cochran.
Why?
Ving Rhames as Cochran?
Why?
Well, that's a hell of a choice.
Right.
Christopher Plummer as Bailey, Ron Silver as Shapiro, and Raymond Forchion as Simpson. BBC TV's documentary O.J. Simpson, The Untold Story, in 2000, produced by Malcolm Brinkworth, reveals that clues that some believe pointed away from Simpson as a killer were dismissed or ignored, and highlights two other leads which could shed new light on the case.
Oh, wow. Jeez, just like anything, we got to...
Of course. You know there's always going to be stuff that's going to be contradicting and claiming they have evidence on the other side.
2014, ID premiered...
Investigation Discovery.
Right. Premiered the documentary O.J., Trial of the Century, which begins on the day of the murders, ends on the reading of the verdict, and comprises...
Right.
Oh, yeah. And comprises actual media footage of events and reactions as they unfolded.
All right. There's lots of shit about in the...
so I might have to watch the ID one.
Right.
2016, in February, FX premiered this anthology series, American Crime Story.
I remember that, yeah. I think that was with... Travolta, David Schwimmer, and all those guys.
Yeah, they were all in it. The self-contained first season, The People vs. O.J. Simpson, American Crime Story, was adapted from the book The Run of His Life, The People vs. O.J. That was in 1997 by Jeffrey Toobin, who wrote that book, right? Who had also served as a legal analyst for The New Yorker on the trial. Get out of here. The cast included Sarah Paulson as Clark, Courtney B. Vance as Cochran, John Travolta as Shapiro, David Schwimmer as Kardashian, Sterling K. Brown as Darden, and Cuba Gooding Jr. as O.J. Simpson. You couldn't get a black guy that looks less like O.J. than Cuba Gooding Jr.
Cuban kind of looked like O.J. back in the day.
Yeah. Not at all. Oh, jeez. It received critical acclaim and several Emmy Awards.
Oh, good for them.
Did they?
Of course they did.
2014, in April, ID premiered O.J. Simpson Trial, The Real Story, which entirely comprises archival news footage of the murder case, the Bronco chase, the trial, the verdict, and reactions.
All right. Well, the suit Simpson wore when he was acquitted on October 3rd, 1995 was donated by Simpson's former agent Mike Gilbert to the Newseum in 2010. The Newseum has multiple trial-related items in their collection, including press passes, newspapers, and the mute button that Superior Court Judge Lance Ito used when he wanted to shut off live microphone in court so lawyers could talk privately during the trial.
Okay.
The museum's acquisition of the suit ended the legal battle between Gilbert and Fred Goldman,
all right,
both of whom claimed the right to the clothing. Weird. Right. Colleen's white Ford Bronco that he drove in the police chase was on display at the Alcatraz East Crime Museum in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, as of late 2014. I think it's still there. In 2017, Adam Papagon curated a pop-up museum showcasing artifacts from the trial at Coagula Curatorial Gallery in L.A. So if you're interested into watching movies, documentaries, and going places where the actual stuff is, that's where you got. But holy shit.
What a shit show of a case. I mean, I knew it was a long case and 134 days and this and this and that. The glove didn't fit. You must have quit, right?
No, that's all you ever hear is the glove didn't quit.
Right.
You must have quit. But guess what? There was a lot. Holy, like I said earlier, the prosecution and the defense.
Whoa.
They had each other in check so many times. And then something would come up, and then they get out of it, and then they get the next person in check, and then the witness would change their testimony, or something else would come up. Holy shit, dude!
Wow.
This I don't understand how. Like we were saying in part 1 of this episode, don't understand how OJ wasn't immediately jailed and put in prison for life, dude. Because all 100% evidence points to that motherfucker did it.
But then it goes back to the socks, the glove, the shirt, the pants. I don't know, man. I believe that, yeah. I believe he has something to do with it. I don't know if he actually did it.
But there is a long-standing theory out there that his son was actually the one that
I think he was there
that committed the murders, and OJ took the fall for it.
I don't know what happened, man. The gloves just don't make no sense. Leaving one at the crime scene and one found at his house. Socks,
especially the socks,
and then the shirt's gone.
The shirt and the pants and the shoes, he just takes with him in the knapsack and gets rid of them. But he leaves the socks on the ground in the room. And that's the one thing that will always stand out to me is the socks were left there, right?
Do you think you think you don't know where the gloves were? He didn't know he dropped one at the crime scene, and he dropped one there,
right?
I think he would have known that, or you think he didn't know?
No, he knew.
Right. Get out of here.
He dropped one glove,
right, at the crime scene. And then dropped
dropped the other one at his house. Why would he drop it at his house?
Stupid.
Get
rid of his shirt.
But do you think he's that stupid that...
And his shoes.
Do you think he's that stupid that the cops wouldn't search his whole premises?
Right.
Like, I'll just throw it behind Kalen's little bungalow and the cops won't search there.
Right. But then again, get rid of his shirt, his shoes, and his pants. But not socks.
Not the socks that are laying in the middle of his room when the cops came back to get him.
I don't get it. It's not making... Something ain't right here. Something ain't right.
Wow, guys.
Something ain't right.
All I can say is... Holy shit.
All I can say, America's justice system, that was in full display there. The jury was up to the jury to decide, and they decided.
They did what...
But...
They did what the...
Justice prevailed with wrongful death cause, I guess. Even that then, because that was a contaminated court, too.
Yeah, the civil suit was fucked, too, when you wouldn't allow most of the stuff that acquitted the guy in the first place. Of course, he's going to lose.
Right.
And then they got back at him for the holding the guy's hostages in his hotel room with a gun. Rightfully so. I mean, but still, they were... when that happened, they were getting his ass.
For sure. Yeah, there's nothing with that.
With that being said, shitty trial. Email us
CCN
but we want to know what your guys' thoughts are on this trial. If you made it to the end of this episode, do you think OJ was guilty, or do you think maybe he was conspired against, and maybe his son was the one that actually did it? Send us an email at bangdangpodcast@gmail.com. Hit us up on Twitter at OGMM Podcast at OGMM Podcast on Twitter, and we'll be back next week for... Jeez, I don't even know if we'll be back next week. After this long-ass episode.
Oh,
but, yeah, we'll be back next week. We're the Mouth of Michiganders with
Bang Dang.